Part 1. Wake Up. Clara Anderson was 22 years old, living in one of the most expensive parts of the city with her parents, Mr. and Mrs. Anderson. Her father was a powerful businessman, while her mother was a well-known fashion designer. They were the perfect family, at least on the outside. But inside, their home was filled with arguments, frustrations, and growing tensions. Clara's life seemed perfect. She was rich, had everything she wanted, but was extremely lazy. She missed her college classes, spent most of her time sleeping, and partied late into the night. Her days started at noon, and the only thing she cared about was what the next party would be. Junk food was her go-to meal, and she rarely listened to her parents, who always scolded her. "Clara, you're wasting your life. Do you know how many people dream of an education like yours?" her father shouted one evening after she missed yet another important class. But Clara didn't care. "I'll get through college just fine, Dad. Stop stressing," she said with a smirk, taking a bite of her burger. Her mother, now frustrated, threw her hands in the air. "Clara, you can't live like this forever. One day you'll regret it," Mrs. Anderson yelled. But Clara didn't listen. She ignored them both and spent the night out with her friends, drinking and dancing until 4 a.m. The cycle continued every day: arguments with her parents in the morning, laziness in the afternoon, and parties at night. One day, Clara met Daniel, a 30-year-old architect, at an art gallery. He was mature, driven, and disciplined, the complete opposite of Clara. Daniel wasn't rich like Clara, but he loved his work and was passionate about life. He had dreams of building his own company one day. Clara found him interesting. He wasn't like the other men she had met at parties. Daniel didn't care about money or status. He cared about hard work, integrity, and personal growth. Over time, they became friends, though Clara wasn't used to being around someone like Daniel. "Why are you always in such a hurry?" Clara asked one afternoon while lounging at his apartment. Daniel laughed. "I have goals, Clara. I have to make things happen. I don't have the luxury to waste time." Clara just shrugged. She didn't get it. One night, after another wild party, Clara came home to find her parents waiting for her in the living room. Her father was fuming. "This is it, Clara," he shouted. "You need to grow up. You're 22, but you act like a spoiled child." Clara, half drunk, rolled her eyes. "Not this again. You always say the same things, Dad." But this time, it was different. Her father was serious. He pulled out a piece of paper and handed it to her. "You have 1 month to find a job or a plan for your life, or we're cutting you off. No more money, no more parties, nothing." Her mother added, "We love you, Clara, but we can't keep supporting your lifestyle." Clara couldn't believe it. "Are you serious? You're going to leave me with nothing?" Her father nodded. "You need to learn how to live on your own." Furious, Clara screamed, "Fine, I don't need you, I'll leave." And with that, she packed her bags and stormed out of the house. Tears filled her eyes as she walked down the street, not knowing where to go. Her entire world was crumbling, and for the first time in her life, she was scared. Clara had nowhere to stay. All her friends were too busy with their own lives, and she didn't want to beg them for help. In a moment of desperation, she called Daniel. "Can I crash at your place for a while?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Daniel hesitated, but finally agreed. "Okay, but only for a few days." Clara showed up at his apartment with nothing but a suitcase and a broken heart. She thought this was just a temporary problem. Her parents would surely give in soon, and she'd be back home in no time. But things didn't go as planned. The next morning, Clara woke up late, as usual. She was shocked to find that Daniel had already left for work. He was so different from her: responsible, focused, and motivated. She opened the fridge, hoping to grab a snack, but realized there was almost nothing there except some vegetables and eggs. Her usual junk food wasn't around, and she didn't know how to cook anything for herself. To make things worse, her father had cut off her credit cards. She tried to buy something online, but the transaction failed. Panic set in. What am I going to do? She whispered to herself. Clara felt lost. For the first time in her life, she had no money, no plan, and no idea how to survive without her parents' support. She texted Daniel, but he didn't reply. She was alone in his apartment, staring at the walls, feeling more helpless than ever. Clara's mind was racing. She had left her house in anger, but now, for the first time, she was realizing that maybe her parents had a point. What if she couldn't survive on her own? What if she had no way to get through life without their money? In this moment of panic, Clara's phone buzzed. It was a message from Daniel. Clara, I believe in you. You can do this. Or part 2, Clara's wake-up call. After that morning in Daniel's apartment, Clara knew things had changed for good. She sat alone, her mind filled with thoughts about what her life had become. The credit cards were cut off, her parents were done with her, and she didn't even know how to make breakfast without burning something. Daniel was right. She needed to grow up. But how could she, after living in luxury her whole life? The first few days at Daniel's place were tough. She still woke up late, feeling lost and confused. One day, she decided to talk to Daniel after he came back from work, hoping he would give her some advice. Daniel, she said quietly, sitting on his couch, I don't know what to do. My parents have abandoned me. I have no money, and I can't even cook for myself. I feel useless. Daniel gave her a kind look, but didn't sugarcoat anything. Clara, you've been living in a bubble for too long. You have to learn how to stand on your own feet. I can't take care of you forever. Her heart sank a little, but she knew he was right. Clara decided to start with something small, making her own meals. She opened YouTube and searched for easy recipes, starting with a simple pasta dish. It took her 2 hours and almost burning down the kitchen, but she made it. When Daniel came home that evening, the table was set with her first ever homemade meal. He was surprised, but didn't say much. Not bad for a beginner, he said, taking a bite. Clara smiled, feeling a tiny sense of accomplishment, but the tension with her parents was still there. Every day, Clara thought about calling them, but her pride wouldn't let her. Meanwhile, her parents were equally torn. Mrs. Anderson, though strict, loved her daughter deeply and felt terrible about the whole situation. One evening, Clara's mom called her husband. David, don't you think we've been too hard on Clara? She's still our daughter and I'm worried about her. Mr. Anderson sighed heavily. I know, but she needs to learn responsibility. We can't keep enabling her behavior. It's for her own good. But deep down, both of them missed their daughter and hoped she would come back soon. As Clara spent more time at Daniel's apartment, their friendship grew stronger. He was older, more mature, and incredibly driven. She admired his focus and determination, something she had never really experienced before. One night, while watching a movie together, Clara found herself thinking about how different her life had become in just a few days. You know, Daniel said, turning to her, I used to be like you once. No direction, no goals. But then life gave me a wake-up call, and I had to figure things out. Clara looked at him, surprised. Really? I can't imagine you being anything but responsible. He smiled. We all have our phases. As their friendship deepened, Clara couldn't help but notice how safe she felt around him. He was different from the boys she partied with. Daniel actually cared about her well-being. And while Clara had never thought of him in a romantic way before, she now found herself thinking about him late at night. But before she could figure out her feelings, the universe threw another curveball at her. One morning, Clara tried to call her best friend Lisa, hoping to vent about her situation, but there was no answer. She tried several times, but Lisa was nowhere to be found. It turned out Lisa had moved on. She had started dating someone new, and her life was all about her new boyfriend now. Clara was heartbroken. First her parents, now her best friend. It felt like the entire world was leaving her behind. Determined not to fall apart, Clara decided to get a job. She searched online, applied to dozens of places, but nobody seemed to want to hire her. Every rejection email felt like a punch to the gut. But then, out of nowhere, she got an interview at a local cafe. It wasn't glamorous, and it was miles away from the luxury she was used to, but it was a start. Clara's first day at the cafe was rough. She spilled coffee, messed up orders, and got yelled at by the manager, Mrs. Turner, an older woman with a sharp tongue. "Clara, if you want to last here, you need to be more focused," Mrs. Turner snapped after the third mistake. Clara wanted to cry, but she didn't. She took a deep breath and promised herself that she wouldn't give up. After all, she had nowhere else to go. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, Clara started to get the hang of it. She woke up early for the first time in years, learned how to make coffee, and even started enjoying the sense of accomplishment she felt after a hard day's work. She didn't need her parents' money anymore. She was doing it all on her own. Part 3. Feelings Unraveling. The days at the cafe turned into weeks, and Clara's life slowly started to transform. She was no longer the girl who slept in late, missed classes, or relied on her parents' wealth. Waking up early for work, learning how to manage her money, and even cooking her own meals felt like small victories. But as much as her life was changing, something else was beginning to shift too: her feelings for Daniel. It started off small. She noticed how Daniel always seemed to know when she had a rough day, offering her a warm cup of tea or a quiet smile. When he worked late, she found herself waiting up just to make sure he was okay. But what surprised her most was how much she missed him when he wasn't around. One evening, Clara found herself staring at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. Her thoughts were racing. Could I be falling for Daniel? She whispered to herself. He was older, more serious, and had his life together. Everything she wasn't. Yet, the idea of them being together was starting to make sense in a way she hadn't expected. But with those feelings came confusion. Clara wasn't used to this kind of maturity in a relationship. Daniel was calm, composed, and had never shown any romantic interest in her. She wasn't sure if he saw her as anything more than a friend. One night, after Daniel came home from work, they sat down for dinner. Clara had made spaghetti, and they were eating in comfortable silence. The usual chatter about work and life filled the air, but tonight Clara was distracted. "Daniel, do you ever think about your future?" she asked, trying to sound casual. He looked at her curiously. "Yeah, sometimes. Why?" Clara hesitated, her heart pounding. She was afraid to ask what she really wanted to know. "I mean, do you ever think about, settling down? Relationships?" Daniel smiled softly. "Not lately. I've been so focused on work, I haven't had time for that kind of thing." Clara's heart sank a little, but she quickly recovered, putting on a brave face. She wasn't ready to tell him how she felt. Not yet. Meanwhile, things with her parents were getting worse. Clara hadn't spoken to them in weeks, but one night, out of the blue, her phone rang. It was her mother. "Clara." Her mother's voice sounded tired. "I know things haven't been easy between us, but your father and I miss you. Please come home." Clara's heart raced. She had been waiting for this call, but now that it was here, she didn't know what to say. "Mom, I'm not ready to come back. I'm finally figuring things out on my own." Her mother sighed. "We just want what's best for you, Clara, but you can't keep living like this." That stung. Living like this? Clara wanted to scream. She had been working hard, earning her own money and doing things she never thought she could. "I'm doing fine, Mom. Better than I ever have." There was a long pause. "I love you, Clara," her mother finally said before hanging up. But Clara didn't feel the love in that moment. All she felt was frustration and a heavy sense of guilt. After the call, Clara felt restless. The fight with her parents weighed on her, and she couldn't shake the feeling of being stuck between two worlds, her old life of privilege and the new, unfamiliar one she was trying to build. She wandered around the apartment, thinking about everything: her parents, her job, her future, and Daniel. Over the next few weeks, Clara threw herself into her new life. She woke up early every day, learned to manage her budget, and even started exercising with Daniel before work. The more she pushed herself, the more confident she became. She was changing, growing, and it felt incredible. But with each passing day, her feelings for Daniel grew stronger. She found herself daydreaming about him at the cafe, wondering what it would be like to be with someone who actually cared about her as more than just a party girl. The way he looked at her, the way he talked to her, it was different from anyone else she'd ever known. One evening, Clara and Daniel were watching TV after a long day. The room was quiet, except for the sound of the show in the background. Clara, sitting next to him on the couch, glanced over at him. His face was lit softly by the glow of the screen, and her heart fluttered. Without thinking, she blurted out, "Daniel, have you ever thought about us?" Daniel looked at her, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Clara hesitated, her voice barely a whisper, "have you ever thought about us being more than just friends?" The room fell silent. Daniel didn't answer right away, and Clara's heart raced. Had she just ruined everything? Finally, Daniel sighed and turned to face her. "Clara, you're an amazing person. I care about you a lot, but you're still figuring out your life. I don't want to complicate things for you." Clara felt a mix of disappointment and relief. At least now she knew where they stood, but as much as she tried to brush it off, she couldn't help but wonder if there was more to Daniel's hesitation. Just when Clara thought things were settling down, something strange happened. One night, after dinner, Daniel's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, and Clara noticed the name on the caller ID. It was a woman. Daniel's expression changed, and he quickly excused himself, stepping outside to take the call. Clara's mind raced. Who was she? And why did Daniel look so uncomfortable? She tried not to jump to conclusions, but the tension was undeniable. When Daniel came back inside, he seemed distant. "Everything okay?" Clara asked, trying to keep her voice casual. "Yeah, just work stuff," Daniel replied. But Clara could tell he wasn't being entirely honest. For the rest of the night, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Who was the woman on the phone, and why was Daniel acting so strange? Could it be that Daniel had a secret life that he wasn't telling her about? As Clara lay in bed that night, her thoughts raced. She had worked so hard to turn her life around, but now everything felt uncertain again. Her feelings for Daniel, the tension with her parents, and now this mysterious phone call. It was all too much. Part 4. The Final Turning Point. As the days passed, Clara couldn't shake her growing unease. Daniel had been acting strange since that mysterious phone call, and her feelings for him were becoming harder to ignore. Despite all the progress she had made in her personal life, a nagging sense of uncertainty hung over her. One evening, Clara finally decided she couldn't take it anymore. After dinner, as they sat on the couch, she turned to Daniel and spoke up. "Daniel, who was that woman on the phone the other night?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "You've been different since then, and I feel like you're keeping something from me." Daniel looked at her for a long moment before sighing heavily. "Clara, I didn't want to involve you in this because you've already had so much going on. The woman who called is an old friend from work, but she's more than that. We used to date." Clara's heart sank. "You used to date? Are you still in touch with her?" Daniel nodded, looking uncomfortable. "She reached out because she's going through a rough time, and I've been trying to help her. But it's nothing more than that, I promise." Clara felt a mix of emotions. Relief that Daniel had been honest, but also a sharp pang of jealousy. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "I didn't want to complicate things between us," Daniel admitted. "I didn't want you to think there was something going on when there isn't." Clara sat there, processing everything. She realized that Daniel's honesty mattered more than her jealousy. He had been a true friend to her through everything, helping her grow into the person she was becoming. Maybe it was time for her to trust him completely. "I believe you," Clara said softly, her voice full of sincerity. "I've been feeling something for you, Daniel, but I don't want to complicate things either. I don't know what this is between us, but I don't want to lose it." Daniel smiled, a warm, reassuring smile. "Whatever it is, Clara, we'll figure it out together. There's no rush." As Clara and Daniel settled into a deeper understanding, her journey towards independence continued. The cafe job was steady, and Clara found herself enjoying the routine. She was even taking on extra shifts to save more money, determined to prove to herself and to her parents that she didn't need to rely on anyone else to make it in life. One day, while she was at work, she received a text from her father. It was brief and to the point. "We've reinstated your credit card. You can come home anytime." For a long time, Clara stared at the message. The old her would have jumped at the opportunity to return to her comfortable life. But now, things were different. Clara had grown up. She no longer needed her parents' money, and more importantly, she didn't want it. Clara replied with a simple message. "Thank you, but I'm doing fine on my own." The weeks that followed were some of the happiest of Clara's life. She and Daniel grew closer, their friendship evolving into something more, though neither of them had officially defined it. Clara was thriving at work, taking on new responsibilities, and becoming more confident in herself. One evening, after a long day at the cafe, Clara returned home to find Daniel waiting for her with a serious expression. He had something on his mind, and Clara could sense it right away. "Clara, we need to talk," Daniel said, his voice calm but firm. Clara felt her heart skip a beat. "What's going on?" "I've been offered a job in another city," Daniel revealed. "It's a big opportunity for me, and I'm thinking about taking it." Clara's chest tightened. The thought of Daniel leaving scared her, but she knew she couldn't hold him back. He had been there for her through so much, and now it was his turn to focus on his own path. "That's amazing, Daniel," Clara said, forcing a smile. "You should definitely take it." Daniel looked at her intently, as if trying to gauge her true feelings. "It's going to be tough leaving everything behind, especially you." Clara felt a lump form in her throat. "I'll miss you too," she admitted. "But we both have our own lives to live now. You've helped me so much, and I'll always be grateful for that. But I think it's time for both of us to take the next step." The day Daniel left for his new job was bittersweet. Clara helped him pack his things, and as they stood by the door ready to say goodbye, neither of them could find the right words. "I don't know what I would have done without you," Clara said, her voice cracking with emotion. "You helped me grow up." Daniel smiled, pulling her into a tight hug. "You didn't need me to grow up, Clara. You did that on your own." They stood there for a long moment, neither of them wanting to let go. But eventually, Daniel pulled back, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and pride. "You're going to be just fine," he said softly. "I know it." Clara nodded, her heart heavy. "And so will you." With that, Daniel gave her one last smile and walked out the door. Clara watched him leave, feeling a strange mix of emotions, sadness, pride, and hope for the future. In the days that followed, Clara found herself adjusting to life without Daniel. At first, it was difficult. She missed his presence, his advice, and the comfort of having him around. But as time went on, she realized that this was exactly what she needed. Clara had become independent, not just financially but emotionally as well. She no longer relied on anyone else to make her feel whole. She was proud of the woman she had become, and though the journey had been difficult, she wouldn't change a thing. One evening, as she sat in her apartment reflecting on the past few months, Clara received a message from her father. It was simple, but it meant the world to her. "We're proud of you, Clara." Tears welled up in her eyes as she read the words. It had taken a long time, But her parents had finally come to see the person she had become. She wasn't the lazy, irresponsible girl they once knew. She was independent, strong, and capable. And as she sat there, alone but not lonely, Clara realized something important. She didn't need anyone else to define her happiness. She had found it within herself. As the months passed, Clara continued to thrive at her job, eventually earning a promotion. She made new friends, explored new hobbies, and even started taking night classes to further her career. She had built a life she was proud of, one that didn't rely on anyone else. And while Daniel had moved on to a new city, they remained close friends, keeping in touch regularly. Their relationship had shifted from something undefined to a deep, lasting friendship built on mutual respect and understanding. Clara's journey wasn't over. There were still challenges ahead, still lessons to learn. But she was ready for whatever life had in store for her. She had grown into the woman she always knew she could be, responsible, independent, and strong. And that, she realized, was the greatest success of all.